Mr. Schneider, how did the world economy perform in April, the last month, and what does the DBIX indicator tell us about it?
The world economy actually performance was pretty mixed. The data provided a mixed bag. I mean, there were some numbers from the US, GDP data, or also the PMI in the Eurozone, which were somewhat weaker and disappointing. But overall, the DBIX managed to muster another 0.1 increase after 0.2 in the previous month. So there is the deceleration visible, but overall it's still a small expansion.
Mm-hmm. The main reason for the increasing is the US PMI, right?
Yeah, that's true. If we look at the subcomponents, it's the US the ISM, which jumped by 1.4%, which looks a little odd if you basically contrast that with other data we have seen from the US, but still that's the number, and therefore I think it has helped at least for the short run.
Mm-hmm. If we look at Europe, here the opposition to the austerity measures implemented is increasing. Isn't it maybe time for the European governments to rethink and to enforce spending to stimulate growth?
With what money should that spending be financed? I mean, the crisis has been the result of governments no longer being possible or no longer being in a position to refinance themselves on capital markets. And therefore, I mean, there is no way to do that. Plus, I don't see any kind of projects which will have a short-term beneficial effect without harming the long run. And therefore, I think we have to tough it out, we have to sweat it out, and consolidation has to run its course.
So you really think there's no alternative to those measures, to those austerity measures?
No, there is no measure, there's no alternative. I mean, we have tried it when the world and the European economy slumped in 2008, 2009 to basically offset that by massive expenditure programs, which actually caused a substantial increase in debt levels. And now we are back to square one. At that time we hoped that, you know, with a little bit of support from the governments, the economy would come back to a self-propelled growth pattern, but it hasn't. And the consolidation, not only in the private sector, but by now also in the public sector, has to run its course. And a recent paper from Reinhardt and Rogoff showed us that if you look back in history, that sometimes has even taken decades.
Mm-hmm. We hope that it won't take decades this time. But if we look on Germany, the Euro crisis seems to impact the country more and more negatively. Do you think that the age of bliss and happiness is over here in Germany?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we wrote back in August last year a report which was titled "No Longer the Island of the Blessed." And the fourth quarter GDP was slightly negative. And if we look at new order intake, especially from the Eurozone, down 11%, we can really see that Germany is feeling the impact. Although on the domestic side, I mean, Germany is still holding up rather well.
Okay, we'll have a deeper look on Germany and on the Euro crisis in our focus talk of this month, to find in the internet under dw.de/Made in Germany. Thank you so far, Mr. Schneider.
Welcome.